Section 9 of the Aeneid of Virgil. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Aeneid of Virgil, translated by John Dryden. Book 5, Part 1. Meantime the Trojan cuts his watery way, fixed on his voyage through the curling sea. Then, casting back his eyes with dire amaze, sees on the Punic shore the mounting blaze. The cause unknown, yet his presaging mind the fate of Dido from the fire divined. He knew the stormy souls of womankind, what secret springs their eager passions move, how capable of death for injur'd love dire auguries from hence the Trojans draw, till neither fires nor shining shores they saw. Now seas and skies their prospect only bound, an empty space above, a floating field around. But soon the heavens with shadows were o'erspread, a swelling cloud hung hov'ring o'er their head. Livid it look'd, the threat'ning of a storm, then night and horror ocean's face deform. The pilot Palinurus cried aloud, "What gusts of weather from that gathering cloud my thoughts presage! Ere yet the tempest roars, stand to your tackle, mates, and stretch your oars. Contract your swelling sails, and luff to the wind." The frighted crew perform'd the task assign'd. Then to his fearless chief, "Not heav'n," said he, "though Jove himself should promise Italy, can stem the torrent of this raging sea. Mark how the shifting winds from west arise, and what collected night involves the skies. Nor can our shaken vessels live at sea, much less against the tempest force their way. 'Tis fate diverts our course, and fate we must obey. Not far from hence, if I observ'd aright the southing of the stars and polar light, Sicilia lies, whose hospitable shores in safety we may reach with struggling oars." Aeneas then replied, "Too sure I find we strive in vain against the seas and wind. Now shift your sails. What place can please me more than what you promise, the Sicilian shore, whose hallow'd earth Anchises' bones contains, and where a prince of Trojan lineage reigns?" The course resolv'd, before the western wind they scud amain, and make the port assign'd. Meantime Acestes from a lofty stand beheld the fleet descending on the land, and, not unmindful of his ancient race, down from the cliff he ran with eager pace, and held the hero in a strict embrace. Of a rough Libyan bear the spoils he wore, and either hand a pointed jav'lin bore. His mother was a dame of Dardan blood, his sire Crinisus, a Sicilian flood. He welcomes his returning friends ashore, with plenteous country, cates, and homely store. Now, when the following morn had chased away the flying stars, and light restor'd the day, Aeneas call'd the Trojan troops around, and thus bespoke them from a rising ground: "Offspring of heav'n, divine Dardanian race, the sun, revolving through th' ethereal space, the shining circle of the year has fill'd, since first this isle my father's ashes held; and now the rising day renews the year, a day for ever sad, for ever dear. This would I celebrate with annual games, with gifts on altars piled, and holy flames, though banish'd to Gaetulia's barren sands, caught on the Grecian seas, or hostile lands. But since this happy storm our fleet has driven, not, as I deem, without the will of heav'n, upon these friendly shores and flow'ry plains, which hide Anchises and his blest remains, let us with joy perform his honours due, and pray for prosperous winds our voyage to renew. Pray that in towns and temples of our own the name of great Anchises may be known, and yearly games may spread the gods' renown. Our sports Acestes of the Trojan race, With royal gifts ordain'd, is pleas'd to grace. 2 steers on every ship the king bestows; His gods and ours shall share your equal vows. Besides, if, 9 days hence, the rosy morn Shall with unclouded light the skies adorn, that day with solemn sports I mean to grace. Light galleys on the seas shall run a wat'ry race; Some shall in swiftness for the goal contend, And others try the twanging bow to bend. The strong with iron gauntlets arm'd shall stand Oppos'd in combat on the yellow sand. Let all be present at the games prepar'd, And joyful victors wait the just reward. But now assist the rites, with garlands crown'd." He said, and first his brows with myrtle bound. Then Helymus by his example led, And old Acestes each adorn'd his head. Thus young Ascanius with a sprightly grace His temples tied, and all the Trojan race. Aeneas then advanc'd amidst the train, By thousands follow'd thro' the flow'ry plain, To great Anchises' tomb; which when he found, He pour'd to Bacchus on the hallow'd ground 2 bowls of sparkling wine, of milk 2 more, And 2 from offer'd bulls of purple gore. With roses then the sepulchre he strow'd, And thus his father's ghost bespoke aloud: "Hail, O ye holy Manes! Hail again, Paternal ashes, now review'd in vain! The gods permitted not that you with me Should reach the promis'd shores of Italy, Or Tiber's flood, what flood soe'er it be." Scarce had he finish'd, when, with speckled pride, A serpent from the tomb began to glide. His hugy bulk on 7 high volumes roll'd; Blue was his breadth of back, but streak'd with scaly gold. Thus riding on his curls, he seem'd to pass A rolling fire along, and singe the grass. More various colours thro' his body run, Than Iris when her bow imbibes the sun. Betwixt the rising altars and around, The sacred monster shot along the ground. With harmless play amidst the bowls he pass'd, And with his lolling tongue assay'd the taste. Thus fed with holy food, the wondrous guest Within the hollow tomb retir'd to rest. The pious prince, surpris'd at what he view'd, The funeral honours with more zeal renew'd; Doubtful if this place's genius were, Or guardian of his father's sepulcher. 5 sheep according to the rites he slew, As many swine, and steers of sable hue. New gen'rous wine he from the goblets pour'd, And call'd his father's ghost, from hell restor'd. The glad attendants in long order come, Off'ring their gifts at great Anchises' tomb. Some add more oxen, some divide the spoil, Some place the chargers on the grassy soil, Some blow the fires, and offer'd entrails broil. Now came the day desir'd; the skies were bright With rosy lustre of the rising light. The bordering people, rous'd by sounding fame Of Trojan feasts and great Acestes' name, The crowded shore with acclamations fill, Part to behold, and part to prove their skill. And first the gifts in public view they place, Green laurel wreaths, and palm the victor's grace. Within the circle arms and tripods lie, Ingots of gold and silver heap'd on high, And vests embroider'd of the Tyrian dye. The trumpet's clangour then the feast proclaims, And all prepare for their appointed games. 4 galleys first, which equal rowers bear, Advancing in the wat'ry lists appear. The speedy dolphin, that outstrips the wind, Bore Mnestheus, author of the Memmian kind. Gyas the vast Chimera's bulk commands, Which rising like a tow'ring city stands. 3 Trojans tug at every labouring oar; 3 banks in 3 degrees the sailors bore. Beneath their sturdy strokes the billows roar. Sergesthus, who began the Sergian race, In the great Centaur took the leading place. Cloanthus on the sea-green Scylla stood, From whom Cluentius draws his Trojan blood. Far in the sea, against the foaming shore, There stands a rock, The raging billows roar above his head in storms, but when 'tis clear, uncurl their ridgy backs, and at his foot appear. In peace below the gentle waters run; the cormorants above lie basking in the sun. On this the hero fix'd an oak in sight, the mark to guide the mariners aright. To bear with this, the seamen stretch their oars; then round the rock they steer, and seek the former shores. The lots decide their place. Above the rest, each leader shining in his Tyrian vest. The common crew, with wreaths of poplar boughs, their temples crown, and shade their sweaty brows. Besmear'd with oil, their naked shoulders shine. All take their seats, and wait the sounding sign. They grip their oars, and every panting breast Is rais'd by turns with hope, by turns with fear depress'd. The clangour of the trumpet gives the sign. At once they start, advancing in a line. With shouts the sailors rend the starry skies. Lash'd with their oars, the smoky billows rise. Sparkles the briny main, and the vex'd ocean fries. Exact in time, with equal strokes they row. At once the brushing oars and brazen prow Dash up the sandy waves, and ope the depths below. Not fiery coursers in a chariot race Invade the field with half so swift a pace. Not the fierce driver with more fury lends the sounding lash, and, ere the stroke descends, low to the wheels his pliant body bends. The partial crowd their hopes and fears divide, and aid with eager shouts the favour'd side. Cries, murmurs, clamours with a mixing sound, From woods to woods, from hills to hills rebound. Amidst the loud applauses of the shore, Gyas outstripp'd the rest, and sprung before. Cloanthus, better mann'd, pursued him fast, But his o'er-masted galley check'd his haste. The Centaur and the Dolphin brush the brine With equal oars, advancing in a line. And now the mighty Centaur seems to lead, And now the speedy Dolphin gets ahead. Now board to board the rival vessels row. The billows lave the skies, and ocean groans below. They reach'd the mark. Proud Gyas and his train In triumph rode, the victors of the main. But, steering round, he charg'd his pilot stand More close to shore, and skim along the sand. Let others bear to sea, Menoetes heard, But secret shelves too cautiously he fear'd, And, fearing, sought the deep, and still aloof he steer'd. With louder cries the captain call'd again, "Bear to the rocky shore, and shun the main," he spoke, and speaking at his stern he saw The bold Cloanthus near the shelvings draw. Betwixt the mark and him the Scylla stood, And in a closer compass plow'd the flood. He pass'd the mark, and wheeling got before. Gyas blasphem'd the gods, devoutly swore, Cried out for anger, and his hair he tore. Mindless of others' lives, so high was grown His rising rage, and careless of his own, The trembling dotard to the deck he drew, Then hoisted up, and overboard he threw. This done, he seiz'd the helm; his fellows cheer'd, Turn'd short upon the shelfs, and madly steer'd. Hardly his head the plunging pilot rears, Clogg'd with his clothes, and cumber'd with his years. Now dropping wet, he climbs the cliff with pain. The crowd, that saw him fall and float again, Shout from the distant shore, and loudly laugh'd, To see his heaving breast disgorge the briny draught. The following Centaur and the Dolphin's crew Their vanish'd hopes of victory renew. While Gyas lags, they kindle in the race. To reach the mark, Sergesthus takes the place. Mnestheus pursues, and, while around they wind, Comes up not half his galley's length behind. Then on the deck, amidst his mates appear'd, And thus their drooping courage he cheer'd: "My friends, and Hector's followers heretofore, Exert your vigour, tug the lab'ring oar. Stretch to your strokes, my still unconquer'd crew, Whom from the flaming walls of Troy I drew. In this our common interest let me find that strength of hand, that courage of the mind, as when you stemm'd the strong Malean flood, and o'er the Syrtes' broken billows row'd. I seek not now the foremost palm to gain, Tho' yet, but that haughty wish is vain, Let those enjoy it whom the gods ordain. But to be last, the lags of all the race, Redeem yourselves and me from that disgrace. Now, one and all, they tug amain; they row at the full stretch, and shake the brazen prow. The sea beneath 'em sinks; their lab'ring sides Are swell'd, and sweat runs guttering down in tides. Chance aids their daring with unhop'd success. Sergesthus, eager with his beak to press Betwixt the rival galley and the rock, Shuts up th' unwieldy Centaur in the lock. The vessel struck, and with a dreadful shock Her oars she shiver'd, and her head she broke. The trembling rowers from their banks arise, And, anxious for themselves, renounce the prize. With iron poles they heave her off the shores, And gather from the sea their floating oars. The crew of Mnestheus, with elated minds, Urge their success, and call the willing winds; Then ply their oars, and cut their liquid way In larger compass on the roomy sea. As, when the dove her rocky hold forsakes, Rous'd in affright, her sounding wings she shakes, The cavern rings with clattering; out she flies, And leaves her callow care, and cleaves the skies. At first she flutters, but at length she springs To smoother flight, and shoots upon her wings. So Mnestheus in the Dolphin cuts the sea, And, flying with a force, that force assists his way. Sergesthus in the Centaur soon he pass'd, Wedg'd in the rocky shoals, and sticking fast. In vain the victor he with cries implores, And practises to row with shatter'd oars. Then Mnestheus bears with Gyas, and outflies The ship without a pilot, yields the prize. Unvanquish'd Scylla now alone remains; Her he pursues, and all his vigour strains. Shouts from the fav'ring multitude arise; Applauding echo to the shouts replies. Shouts, wishes, and applause run rattling thro' the skies. These clamours with disdain the Scylla heard, Much grudg'd the praise, but more the robb'd reward. Resolv'd to hold their own, they mend their pace, All obstinate to die, or gain the race. Rais'd with success, the Dolphin swiftly ran, For they can conquer who believe they can. Both urge their oars, and fortune both supplies, And both perhaps had shar'd an equal prize, When to the seas Cloanthus holds his hands, And succour from the wat'ry powers demands. "Gods of the liquid realms on which I row, If giv'n by you, the laurel bind my brow, Assist to make me guilty of my vow. A snow-white bull shall on your shore be slain, His offer'd entrails cast into the main, And ruddy wine, from golden goblets thrown, Your grateful gift, and my return shall own." The choir of nymphs, and Phorcus from below, With virgin Panopea heard his vow; And old Portunus, with his breadth of hand, Push'd on, and sped the galley to the land. Swift as a shaft, or winged wind, she flies, And, darting to the port, obtains the prize. The herald summons all, and then proclaims Cloanthus conqu'ror of the naval games. The prince with laurel crowns the victor's head, And 3 fat steers are to his vessel led, The ship's reward; with gen'rous wine beside, And sums of silver, which the crew divide. The leaders are distinguish'd from the rest, The victor honour'd with a nobler vest, Where gold and purple strive an equal rose, And needlework its happy cost bestows. There Ganymede is wrought with living art, Chasing thro' Ida's groves the trembling hart. Breathless he seems, yet eager to pursue, When from aloft descends in open view The bird of Jove, and, sousing on his prey, With crooked talons bears the boy away. In vain, with lifted hands and gazing eyes, His guards behold him soaring thro' the skies, And dogs pursue his flight with imitated cries. Mnestheus, the second victor, was declared, and summon'd there the second prize he shared. A coat of mail brave Demoleos bore, more brave Aeneas from his shoulders tore in single combat on the Trojan shore. This was ordained for Mnestheus to possess, in war for his defence, for ornament in peace. Rich was the gift, and glorious to behold, but yet so ponderous with its plates of gold, that scarce 2 servants could the weight sustain. Yet loaded thus, Demoleos o'er the plain pursued and lightly seized the Trojan train. The third, succeeding to the last reward, 2 goodly bowls of massy silver shared, with figures prominent and richly wrought, and 2 brass cauldrons from Dodona brought. Thus all, rewarded by the heroes' hands, their conqu'ring temples bound with purple bands. And now Sergesthus, clearing from the rock, brought back his galley shatter'd with the shock. Forlorn she look'd, without an aiding oar, and, houted by the vulgar, made to shore. As when a snake, surpris'd upon the road, is crush'd athwart her body by the load of heavy wheels, or with a mortal wound her belly bruised and trodden to the ground. In vain with loosen'd curls she crawls along, yet fierce above she brandishes her tongue, glares with her eyes, and bristles with her scales, but grovelling in the dust her parts unsound she trails. So slowly to the port the Centaur tends, but what she wants in oars with sails amends. Yet for his galley saved, the grateful prince is pleased th' unhappy chief to recompense. Pholoe, the Cretan slave, rewards his care, beauteous herself, with lovely twins as fair. From thence his way the Trojan hero bent into the neighb'ring plain with mountains pent, whose sides were shaded with surrounding wood. Full in the midst of this fair valley stood a native theatre, which, rising slow, by just degrees o'erlook'd the ground below. High on a sylvan throne the leader sate, a num'rous train attend in solemn state. Here those that in the rapid course delight, desire of honour, and the prize invite. The rival runners without order stand, the Trojans mix'd with the Sicilian band. First Nisus with Euryalus appears, Euryalus, a boy of blooming years, with sprightly grace and equal beauty crown'd. Nisus for friendship to the youth renown'd. Diores next, of Priam's royal race, then Salius join'd with Patron took their place. But Patron in Arcadia had his birth, and Salius his from Acarnanian earth. Then 2 Sicilian youths, the names of these, swift Helymus and lovely Panopes, both jolly huntsmen, both in forest bred, and owning old Acestes for their head, with several others of ignobler name, whom time has not deliver'd o'er to fame. To these the hero thus his thoughts explain'd, in words which general approbation gain'd. One common largess is for all design'd, the vanquish'd and the victor shall be join'd. 2 darts of polish'd steel and Gnossian wood, a silver-studded axe, alike bestow'd. The foremost 3 have olive wreaths decreed. The first of these obtains a stately steed, adorn'd with trappings, and the next in fame the quiver of an Amazonian dame, with feather'd Thracian arrows well supplied. A golden belt shall gird his manly side, which with a sparkling diamond shall be tied. The third this Grecian helmet shall content, he said. To their appointed base they went, with beating hearts the expected sign receive, and starting all at once the barrier leave. Spread out as on the winged winds they flew, and seiz'd the distant goal with greedy view. Shot from the crowd, swift Nisus all o'erpass'd, nor storms nor thunder equal half his haste. The next, but though the next yet far disjoin'd, came Salius and Euryalus behind. Then Helymus, whom young Diores plied, step after step, and almost side by side, his shoulders pressing, and in longer space, had won, or left at least, a dubious race. Now, spent, the goal they almost reach at last, when eager Nisus, hapless in his haste, slipped first, and, slipping, fell upon the plain, soak'd with the blood of oxen newly slain. The careless victor had not mark'd his way, but, treading where the treach'rous puddle lay, his heels flew up, and on the grassy floor he fell, besmear'd with filth and holy gore. Not mindless then, Euryalus, of thee, nor of the sacred bonds of amity, he strove the immediate rival's hope to cross, and caught the foot of Salius as he rose. So Salius lay extended on the plain. Euryalus springs out the prize to gain, and leaves the crowd, applauding peals, attend the victor to the goal, who vanquish'd by his friend. Next Helymus, and then Diores came, by two misfortunes made the third in fame. But Salius enters, and exclaiming loud for justice, deafens and disturbs the crowd, urges his cause may in the court be heard, and pleads the prize is wrongfully conferr'd. But favour for Euryalus appears; his blooming beauty with his tender tears had bribed the judges for the promised prize. Besides, Diores fills the court with cries, who vainly reaches at the last reward, if the first palm on Salius be conferr'd. Then thus the prince: "Let no disputes arise; where fortune placed it, I award the prize. But fortune's errors give me leave to mend, at least to pity my deserving friend." He said, and from the spoils he draws, ponderous with shaggy mane and golden paws, a lion's hide. To Salius this he gives. Nisus with envy sees the gift, and grieves. "If such rewards to vanquish'd men are due," he said, "and falling is to rise by you, what prize may Nisus from your bounty claim, who merited the first rewards and fame? In falling both an equal fortune tried; would fortune for my fall so well provide?" With this he pointed to his face, and show'd his hand and all his habit smear'd with blood. The indulgent father of the people smil'd, and caus'd to be produced an ample shield, of wondrous art, by Didymaon wrought, long since from Neptune's bars in triumph brought. This given to Nisus, he divides the rest, and equal justice in his gifts express'd. The race thus ended, and rewards bestow'd, once more the prince bespeaks the attentive crowd: "If there be here whose dauntless courage dare in gauntlet fight, with limbs and body bare, his opposite sustain in open view, stand forth the champion, and the games renew. 2 prizes I propose, and thus divide: a bull with gilded horns, and fillets tied, shall be the portion of the conqu'ring chief; a sword and helm shall cheer the loser's grief." Then haughty Dares in the lists appears; stalking he strides, his head erected bears. His nervous arms the weighty gauntlet wield, and loud applauses echo through the field. Dares alone in combat used to stand the match of mighty Paris hand to hand. The same at Hector's funerals undertook gigantic Butes of th' Amycian stock, and by the stroke of his resistless hand stretch'd the vast bulk upon the yellow sand. Such Dares was, and such he strode along, and drew the wonder of the gazing throng. His brawny back and ample breast he shows, his lifted arms around his head he throws, and deals in whistling air his empty blows. His match is sought, but, thro' the trembling band, not one dares answer to the proud demand. Presuming of his force, with sparkling eyes, already he devours the promis'd prize. He claims the bull with awless insolence, and, having seiz'd his horns, accosts the prince: "If none my matchless valour dares oppose, How long shall Dares wait his dastard foes? Permit me, chief, permit without delay, To lead this uncontended gift away." The crowd assents, and with redoubled cries for the proud challenger demands the prize. Acestes, fir'd with just disdain to see the palm usurp'd without a victory, reproach'd Entellus thus, who sat beside, and heard and saw unmov'd the Trojan's pride: "Once, but in vain, champion of renown, So tamely can you bear the ravish'd crown, A prize in triumph borne before your sight, And shun, for fear, the danger of the fight? Where is our Eryx now, the boasted name, the god who taught your thund'ring arm the game? Where now your baffled honour? Where the spoil that fill'd your house, and fame that fill'd our isle?" Entellus thus: "My soul is still the same, Unmov'd with fear, and mov'd with martial fame; But my chill blood is curdled in my veins, And scarce the shadow of a man remains. O could I turn to that fair prime again, That prime of which this boaster is so vain! The brave, who this decrepid age defies, Should feel my force, without the promis'd prize." He said, and, rising at the word, he threw 2 pond'rous gauntlets down in open view; Gauntlets which Eryx wont in fight to wield, And sheathe his hands with in the listed field. With fear and wonder seiz'd, the crowd beholds The gloves of death, with 7 distinguish'd folds Of tough bull hides. The space within is spread with iron, or with loads of heavy lead. Dares himself was daunted at the sight, Renounc'd his challenge, and refus'd to fight. Astonish'd at their weight, the hero stands, And pois'd the pond'rous engines in his hands. "What had your wonder," said Entellus, "been, Had you the gauntlets of Alcides seen, Or view'd the stern debate on this unhappy green? These which I bear your brother Eryx bore, Still mark'd with batter'd brains and mingled gore. With these he long sustain'd the Herculean arm, And these I wielded while my blood was warm. This languish'd frame while better spirits fed, Ere age unstrung my nerves, or time o'ersnow'd my head. But if the challenger these arms refuse, And cannot wield their weight, or dare not use; If great Aeneas and Acestes join In his request, these gauntlets I resign. Let us with equal arms perform the fight, And let him leave to fear, since I resign my right." Section 9.